This is Ace Coach.
Welcome to the show, Nicky. It's an absolute pleasure having you on today.
Thanks very much, Safi. I'm really excited. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on because we're going to be talking about you and your practice today, which, you do something I'm seeing a lot of these, like a lot of coaches working on this whole neurodiversity and thing. And I'm eager to learn more about that. And before we do, I always like to ask my guests this one question to kick things off. How would you typically introduce yourself to a potential client?
So basically, I'm an executive therapist and business coach, and I help those business owners and entrepreneurs and senior leaders who've worked so hard to get to where they are to be successful, that they then turned into having burnout, exhaustion. They feel like they've lost their clarity. They're just struggling in life, and that makes them feel stressed, trapped, and just they lose their love of what they're doing, and the life that they built, they just don't really enjoy anymore, which is really sad because they've worked so hard. So my job is to rewire all of those foundations to give them back the love of life, allow them to be healthy again and happy, but to be the success that really allows them to scale in a better way. So actually earning more but doing less, but they just don't realize that they can do it that way because they've worked so hard to get there.
That is so cool because that is such a common problem. Like I was chatting to a previous interview I was doing, and running your own business is stressful. It's one of the most stressful things I've ever done. So it's like it's like I can see how somebody like you can come in and because of that's those signs of burnout, which maybe we'll talk about a little bit. You don't necessarily know you're being burnt out.
That's right.
And
creeps up on
very
us.
interesting. Yeah, it does. It does. And I'm always curious to know, how did you get into this? What inspired this? Like, what were you doing previously, and then what inspired you to become?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's kind of where we all end up kind of deviating off the norm because things happen, don't they? There's always a turning point. So I started off in corporate world, and I was the nutritionist there and in the marketing department. And I worked really, really hard to prove myself. It's very male-based, and you had to really work hard to get there. And I did really well, but I was overworking and I burnt out, and I thought, this isn't right. So I was exhausted. I was constantly wired, couldn't sleep, but exhausted at the same time, and just was always on and couldn't let go. And so, as you said, you don't often know that you've got burnout creeping in, but I was having endless operations. So I had loads of different operations to the point it was nearly every 9 months. I knew the pre-op assessment people really well. And I thought, that's not good. They're not meant to know who I am. And I decided I needed to do something a bit different because it was just getting out of control. So I left the corporate world, set up on my own, and originally to just be a consultant in nutrition, which, I thought, brilliant, I've got the balance now, it's all good. But the trouble was, it was still breaking me inside. I hadn't changed anything. I just moved from where I was in corporate to do it in my own business as well. And so eventually the turning point came after many, I think I would have read the signs that all of the operations that I was having. But I was took me ages to get pregnant, and I eventually got pregnant, was very excited. And at 30 weeks, we got told that our son was missing the middle part of his brain. The prognosis was really poor. They said you wouldn't be able to lift him up. His joints would come out because they weren't going to be strong enough. He would be totally, the words, mentally retarded and in a wheelchair, and he wouldn't know who you were. But it felt different. We lost our first child because of other complications, but this felt different. And mother's instinct, I don't know, but luckily, thank God, listened to my gut. The gut's so important. And we kept him, and he's just born a miracle. He's just incredible. He's defied every single expectation, which has been fantastic. But the trouble was that we knew there were going to be problems. But with all of my health problems as well, whilst working with him, that it got to a point when I was we'd been for a meeting with the nursery, and they finally told us that he was really behind, even though we kept saying, please be on top of it. And I said, well, why didn't you tell me? Because we was about to start school and we haven't got anything in place. And they said, we didn't like to worry you because you were having another back operation. And I just went down to the park and thought, oh my gosh, we've missed all those critical timings now to get it all set up. We are behind, and it just went a big loud pop. And at that point, it was like everything short fused in my head, and I just felt the life drain out of me. It was the most bizarre experience. So obviously, all of those operations, I wasn't listening, but that really caught my attention. I felt like I had a job to get out of bed, proper physical breakdown, really. And I tried everything. I knew I needed to change. I was having reflexology, massages, I was doing meditation, I was going to see therapists, coaches, but nothing was working. It wasn't touching the surface. And so that's when I thought I needed to really get on top of this neuroscience, because not just for myself, but for my son as well. What was out there wasn't really working. So did a course in that, and then went on to becoming a master NLP practitioner and master hypnotherapist, psychotherapy, coaching, all of it. I mean, just kept adding bits in just to try and find and sort me out, but also that I could help my son. And that's where it all changed. We applied it to me and to him. He was incredible. We've managed to rewire his mind, so his brain, so he's no longer has epilepsy, which is incredible. They said, we don't know what you've done. He jumped up 7 reading levels within a few months by just doing all of these different things. And it really did make a huge difference to him. His confidence and resilience increased. To me, I was back on track. I wasn't people pleasing or doing perfectionism anymore, which was burning me out. Everything just became calmer. And I thought, hang on a minute, I could do this for other people. So that's what I did. And that's where I kind of worked with all of those, put it all together and came up with the Transform to Perform method, which is what I use with my clients today. And had over 1,000 very, very grateful and happy clients that still get loads of messages daily about, you wouldn't believe what I've just done now. And yeah, it's lovely. So I'm very, very grateful for where I am now.
Wow, that is that's as powerful as a origin story that I've ever come across.
We went through a lot.
That is crazy. Oh wow, glad that you were able to turn it into something, turn it around and turn it into that is amazing. And it's crazy that you were able to use your skills to help your son.
Yes,
best case study ever.
Amazing. And he is amazing.
Wow.
He's about to do his GCSE, so we still, I mean, this, it doesn't mean it's all perfect, but we are, we weren't expecting to be at this point.
Really good. I'm really happy. That's happy for you,
Thank you.
and to add to the clients too as well. That's amazing. All right then. So let's talk about your coaching style. I'm always curious about that. Obviously, you've come from this very, very very powerful background. Like, I'm sure you come up with some kind of a process that you use to work with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I call it the Transform to Perform method because it really does transform us to be able to perform so much better. And how I describe it and how I am different is that there are some amazing executive coaches out there and therapists, but they tend to work on the top level. So if you think about a building, say a penthouse, you've got a very big building and you've got the penthouse at the top, and they're really good at working on that and making that amazing with strategies, with training, with all of that kind of leadership skills. But unless you've got the foundation sorted, the cracks keep appearing. So it looks good for a bit, but then they fall apart. My job is to work with the foundations, which are our beliefs, our values that are driving us, and our habits that we've created and have been set from childhood. My job is to properly remove all of those negative, they call them gestalts, which are the emotional memories that we have linked in there at an unconscious level. Change those beliefs, remove the bad ones, put in the good ones. And then when we put all of the good strategies on top, they stay. The penthouse looks amazing for a long time. So that's my job, is to work on the foundations upwards rather than not from the top down.
I see.
Does that make
Okay, that makes
sense?
sense. Yeah, it does. It does because of with a solid foundation, everything else is pretty much cherry on the cake. Ah,
Absolutely.
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot. Is that so? Then how do what when clients come to you? What do they typically come to you for? As in, what does that look like?
Well, it's different for everyone. Usually that they've
Yeah,
got to the burnout stage, so they're
I
exhausted,
see.
they're feeling wired, and they're just not loving their life. They're, a lot of them, the
Mm,
business owners particularly, they
okay.
are wanting to run away from their business. The amount of times they go, "I'm just going to sell up. I just can't do it. It's just too much." I'm like, "Whoa, hang on a minute. Give me some time to work with you. It won't take that long, honestly, and then you could decide." And I help them fall back in love with it because I can
I
give them
see.
the balance and take
Mm,
away that imposter syndrome that is making them overwork, or the
mm,
perfectionism that makes it unrealistic, and they never feel they're good enough, so they just keep adding
mm.
stress on. Just helping them to detach and focus on where they need to be makes life so much easier
Easy.
and moving forward. So I try and catch people before they have lots of endless physical problems like I had. But sometimes, it's creeping in and it's starting to affect, and they haven't quite realised it. Lots of them develop IBS, or they might develop, their anxiety's got worse, their inner voice is really not being very kind to them. And they're
Mm,
just feeling a total charlatan, even though they're being successful. They don't
mm.
realise that they've got there for a reason. They just assume that it's by accident. Don't tell anyone you know. So my job is to instill all of that belief again in a positive way, and just get them back on track to be who they're meant to be, because they work so hard. They've got to enjoy it at some point, and that's my job.
That's such a cool. It's such a cool service. As an entrepreneur myself, all you just say is just related to. I'm like, I can totally relate.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's such a stressful thing being an
Mm.
entrepreneur, and somebody like you, when you get to that point where you're not loving the job or loving
Mm.
your that's one key sign you're probably burnt out. So somebody like you, I can imagine your pitch could be just that could help you fall back in love with what you do.
Yeah.
That could easily resonate with so many entrepreneurs. Yeah,
That's really
and then
interesting you
speak.
say that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I can totally see that resonate
We'll have a chat later.
because of. Yeah, okay. I talk to so many entrepreneurs on this show as well, and you could get that sense of they're not necessarily digging the job anymore. But that's that's a
Hard,
common
as you
thing.
said, it's really
Yeah, it
hard,
is.
and
It
we're
is.
carrying around a load of baggage from before, aren't we?
Yeah,
And it just feeds
so
into
true.
where we are now.
It's also true. And then speaking of that, I always like to know what kind of client. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I suspect you work with a lot of business owners, or do you also work with executives and C-suite leaders, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I do a bit of everything. So I work with a
Okay.
lot of business owners,
Mm.
and but I also go into corporates and do work with them. So
Ah.
it's a bit of both. But I love I love business owners because they're really good at making change and implementing it really, really quickly. That then can have a ripple effect down to their teams really, really quickly, which
Okay.
allows them to elevate their whole business up
Mm.
a huge level really, and just so that bit I really feel passionate about. But I also love going into corporates and working with some amazing corporates at the moment that are really supportive of their teams, and that feels fantastic. It's lovely when you go in and you're
Mm.
like, they really understand it and
Yeah.
they want to
Yeah.
support them. So it's a bit of
Mm.
both really.
Okay. Awesome. And this is interesting as well. I see executive coaches, they work with kind of like you. They work with individuals, and then they work with corporate as well. But I'm always curious, who is your ICP then? If you were working with corporate, who do you, let's say you were reaching out or doing an outreach campaign, who do you connect with to sign you up for corporate? What does that look
I
like?
know that's the hard bit, isn't it? Trying to get ourselves
Mm,
out there. So
mm.
what quite often happens is that they come for themselves, and then they
Oh,
often go, "You've got to do this to my team. You've got to sort them out. You've got to." So I
oh,
often get in indirectly because they've come to see me for help, and then they pull in.
oh.
But yeah, word of mouth. I'm very lucky. I'm not brilliant in my advertising, and they are people just kind of hear about me and say you've got to see her. So
Oh.
that's kind of where I've gone, but I realise I do have to be a bit better at my advertising and my getting myself out there so people
Out
realise that
there.
I can
Yeah.
help. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to 1,000 clients. You're definitely doing something, right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Without. How long have you been in business, if you don't
Yeah,
mind me?
so
How long have you
I've
been
been
doing this?
since 2004. I set up on my own when I left
Oh, okay,
corporate, so it's a while ago
okay,
now.
yeah.
But when I just specifically just stuck with, really decided I'm going to move forward in helping people on a coaching front, that's been 14
Mm,
years.
mm.
So a little while, 14 years. Yes.
It's a long while. Like a lot of coaches don't last that long, So you've definitely really good, really really good. And then now this is for the new coaches that are watching this. Yeah, what's one thing, having been you've been in this for a while. You've been in the trenches, so to speak. So what's one thing that you'd recommend that a new coach just starting out,
So
something that they do that would actually
yeah.
impact their
Yeah,
business?
great question. It would have been great if I'd heard somebody tell me what to do at that time. My
That's exactly.
my big thing is that it's really important that we are continually coached. So I have always made sure I've been coached at the same time, because
Hmm,
we think we know everything and we don't. We
hmm,
don't know what we don't know. So I make sure that I'm coached by really top business coaches, so that
hmm.
I then not only benefit from my own business, but I'm able to pass that on to my leaders and my business owners to get them to elevate as well, but they get it at a lot less cost than what I'm paying out for. So yeah, so I get trained by the top, really top business coaches, and I'm working with some amazing ones at the moment. And the main guy there, Adam Stott, he's fantastic, but he's been trained by other even more internationally global superstars, and he spends over £1 million a year on his training, and then he teaches
What?
me, and then I
Yeah,
can teach my people for a lot less than a
people.
million pound. So yeah, so for me, I think it's really important that they keep up that personal development and
Yeah.
understanding what is that their clients are needing, and what do you need to learn more of to be able to help support them continually. So
Mm.
never stop learning.
Never stop learning. I love that. I love that because that is so true. Especially in this day of AI, AI is going to take all of our jobs. So,
Yeah.
so at some stage, you're gonna have to keep upskilling and never stop learning. So I love that. I'm gonna ask you this. Like this, you're gonna be the first person I ask. What is the future plan for the business now? What where do you see this going in the next? You've been in 14 years. That's
I
crazy.
know.
What do the next 14 years
Well,
look like?
no, well,
Yeah.
it's interesting because I've done a lot of one-to-ones, and I've also done
Mm,
group work, but I've
mm,
really noticed for myself that having small intimate groups has helped me so much more than just having the one-to-ones. So I'm
mm,
putting that more into my business as well. So people can get one-to-ones, but with the smaller group ones, you can really work together, and especially with leaders and
mm,
business owners, you're cross-pollinating. You're able to help share experiences. So it's not just me, adding to them. We work as a team to elevate them, and that has
mm,
been a life changer. It takes a lot of work to be able to get to that point. You need to know your craft and your skill and your coaching abilities to
mm.
be able to get to that point. But it's really lovely when you get there, because you can really help so many more. Because I'd got to a point where I
People.
couldn't get anybody else in. I was working 7 days a week. That wasn't great. So by doing it with smaller groups, it's be able to help more. But actually, it's a lot better way, which I never would have believed before. But it really does make such a difference to them, and to their growth and their transformation.
Hmm. And that makes a lot of sense actually because of you saying that. I'm thinking if I was a executive coach, that the group coaching thing is not just the benefit of the NLP and all
Yeah,
that stuff, but the networking side of things as well could be a really good incentive for people to want to do that versus doing the one to one. Very,
absolutely.
very interesting.
Yeah.
And you make more. You make more. Well, you make more money like having group coaching versus the one on one to one. I would. think
But
anyway.
it's interesting because of the group
Yeah.
coaching, then because of their ability to work together, they get their money back really quickly because they have learned
Okay.
so many more skills and taken off what, they can copy each other to a point of how they can help each other to get to where they need to
Mm.
be because they all come from, many different backgrounds and
Mm.
different services or products that they can start just using bits and help support each other and open up new
Yeah.
doors. So they found that it really increases their return on investment, not just in themselves and what they're
Mm.
doing for their business, but also the contacts that they get and how they can support each other.
Very interesting because I struggle. I speak to coaches, and they struggle with monetization, and they really struggle to maybe they're thinking up in their prices, but that's not appealing. So maybe something like this group coaching might be the way to go. Like position it as not only this, but the networking side for me. I think that is a super valuable, especially for if you're gonna go after business owners. That's like a next level kind of networking. But anyway, that's just my brain. My brain just thinking aside. Thinking this has been an awesome chat. Where can our viewers go learn more about you, possibly work with you? What's the best way for them
Yeah,
to
of
do that?
course. So I've got a website called transformtoperformcoaching.com, or I'm on LinkedIn as in Nicky Anstey, so you can check me out there. I do a bit of Instagram and Facebook, but LinkedIn is the main one, and also my website. So yep, we've got masterclasses that are happening every month. I've also got an audit, a
Yeah.
burnout busting audit. So if people want to
Yeah.
understand where they are on the business scale, if you go
Yeah.
to either of those two links, and you'll be able to check out where you are and get some advice and tips straight through to your inbox about how you can really move forward and how you can catch out a potential problem before it becomes into anything else.
Love it. And we're going to leave all of that in the show notes. Once again, Nikki,
Fantastic.
thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
It's been
Thank you very
absolutely
much for
great. Yeah.
having me, Zavi. It's been
Yeah.
brilliant.